Welcome to Adult Connect. When you say you're a SALT, us in the African community believe it's some sort of disability or spiritual title. But what it means is a speech and language therapist. Today we're at Barking Library to speak to an African lady, incidentally from Edo, who is a speech and language therapist, and find out how common this understanding of what a SALT is to our community. Welcome to another episode of Adult Connect, and on this week's show I'm on a health mission. I have heard about the concept of SALT, and I've come to meet Miss Esosa, not a SALT, a SALT. Good afternoon, Miss Ewunaye.
Very lovely to meet you.
Thank you too, very lovely to meet you. We're sorry to be barging in, on your busy schedule, waiting in reception, tapping, telling you we're here. It's just because it's important to clear some health topics to us. Now, you heard us talking. What is a SALT? I'll go into it, spelled S-A-L-T, the cooking salt.
Yes, it's not actually the cooking salt. Okay. It actually spells speech and language therapy.
It's quite slick. It's the same thing. Do people confuse?
Yes, people do sometimes confuse it. That's the reason SALT as a profession is spelled with small letter A, not the uppercase A, which will stand for salt, as a cookie salt. But when it's spelled as a profession, the letter A is small letter, which means it's a speech and language therapy.
So if in any case I see SALT, if the letter is in a lowercase,
yes,
and the rest of it is in uppercase,
it means speech and language therapy.
Thank you very much. You see, that clarifies it.
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is this? What does a speech and language therapist do?
So I'm a speech and language therapist. A speech and language therapist to work with children and adults that have speech, language and communication problem. Now I'll break it down into 3 different parts for you. That also includes swallowing difficulty.
Okay.
So it means that a speech and language therapist work with people that have speech, language, communication and swallowing problems.
So that is literally swallowing?
Yeah,
okay.
Swallowing.
Okay.
It could be swallowing food, it could be swallowing water.
Okay.
That's what speech and language therapists do.
Okay.
Now,
so let me swallow some water. I might be diagnosed. I did okay, didn't I?
that's perfect. You didn't cough. So,
sorry, carry on.
yeah. Now, a speech means when people have problems producing speech sounds to create words, to form a word. That's what speech problem is. A language problem is when people have difficulties putting words together to make sentences. That's what a language is. A communication problem, on the other hand, means when people have difficulty with verbal and non-verbal communication skills. For example, in social environment, how to use non-verbal body language, how to use eye contact.
Okay.
Wait for someone to talk before the other one talks. Sometimes you see people interrupting each other on social environment to talk.
So let me get it clear. Your job is the speech and the language and the communication. You try to make all these aspects
yes.
work together.
Yes.
So let's talk about awareness. Is this more of a, excuse my phrase, is this more of a white, Western awareness situation that does not affect African people?
No, that's not true at all. I have heard people ask me questions and say, why are you a speech and language therapist? Isn't that a white job? Speech and language problems don't affect black people. It's a Western cultural thing. It's something that white people suffer from. That's absolutely not true. Like I said, whether you're black, pink, yellow or green, people can suffer from swallowing problems.
Yeah.
People have stroke. Stroke causes swallowing problems. So stroke doesn't just affect white people only. It affects black people, green people, pink people, yellow people.
Let me go now to that question people ask you to say, in your profession, how many times do you come across black people, as SALTs?
Yeah. I would say, as a matter of fact, I'm one of the very first African, somebody born in Africa who have English as an additional language to study speech and language therapist. If I'm not the first, I'm one of the few ones that study speech and language therapy as someone that have English as an additional language.
How many of you do you see a week? How many black people in your profession?
None.
How many do you see a month?
None.
How many do you see in 3 months?
None.
In a year?
Now, in the past 10 years that I have been in the field, or 13 years I've been in the field, I am beginning to see young black girls in female in speech and language now. But before, about 13 years ago when I started speech and language therapist, there wasn't quite very few blacks in speech and language.
When you turn up for a job,
Yeah.
bearing in mind there's so few, the clients probably have never seen somebody like you.
Yes.
Is there do you hear clients go, I'm not so sure, is there confidence conflict, if I say?
Not as what I actually have observed is that because the kind of community that we serve in my profession, the profession does not actually represent enough of the community that we serve. It gives a lot of children confidence to see someone from their ethnicity being a professional that is attending to them.
Yes.
And compared to, the same thing happens to parents as well. Parents become extremely confident and trusting when they see somebody from their community telling them problem that their child has. It makes parents believe that this is not just a white culture thing, like we said earlier.
Yes.
It makes parents now believe that, oh, so a black person is a speech and language therapist. Does that mean that she's going to be telling me the truth about my child? Because what happens is that a lot of parents will go to speech and language therapists, and you will see 2 or 3 speech and language therapists, all from a Western culture background.
Yes.
And that makes parents think that I have never seen this from a black person before. A black person have never told me my child have
Speech and
language difficulty. Now, somebody from a different ethnicity is telling me that my child has a speech and language problem, and I don't know anything about this problem. Could it be that they are trying to tell me something from their culture?
Aha.
This is where it is.
Yes. Yes.
Because there are not a lot of black people in the profession. That's where there is no awareness in our community.
So you believe, before I ask the question I was going to ask, you think we're not more accepting of speech and language difficulties because each time it's always, a Western or a white person who is always there to diagnose us?
Yes.
That's clear. Now I want to ask you, on a typical day, now you visit African families and you visit Western families.
Yeah.
In your typical day, what is the difference when you visit both,
The difference is that a Western, a parent from a Western cultural background, or a white parents, let's put it that way, are more accepting because they are more aware of what speech and language communication or swallowing difficulty is all about. For example, if a child comes to my clinic today and I see the child and I write a recommendation for the parent and I say, your child you need to be doing this with your child at home, you need to teach your child how to do this, you need to work on this activity to support your child in this area. Parents are more accepting to that. Western culture parents or white parents are more accepting to that kind of strategies. They will work on that and they will say thank you.
Yeah.
But if I see an African descent parent, it will take me a long time to get the parent to respond to recommendation. It's either because they are now beginning to be, because I'm from the same cultural background as them, they will open up to me and say, can I ask you a question in confidence? And I will say yes. They say, do you really think that my child actually have a problem? I'll say yes, because that's my job. I've just told you, your child have a problem.
They don't believe?
And then they will say, but do you not think that this is something that my child can grow out of? I would say no, it's not something he can grow out of. Do you not think if I take him to church, I think it's spiritual. I don't think this is true, what you were telling me is true. And I say, I am telling you, I'm trained. 4 years training I had for that. And I'm fully qualified and I've been doing this job for how many years? Long time. So I know that your child have a problem.
But they only tell you that because
because I'm from an African background, and they would rather say, "Oh well, I'll take him to church. My pastor will cure him." Because the first question they want to ask me is, "Can you cure my child?" I will say, "No, I can't cure your child, and I don't think anyone can cure your child. But what we can do, we can help you manage your child."
Let me say, because they're strong words. So you spend more time in an African household because they feel better explaining to you other options they're willing to explore. You know, do they tell you what happens when another speech and language therapist who is not from your background comes? Do they give them all that?
No, they wouldn't give them that. They probably would not even attend a speech and language therapy session at all. Parents not being able to make appropriate decision for that child. We get the social services involved. In most cases, I have to step in and say, "Can I do my own visitation first to see whether I'll be able to get the parents to turn around?" And when I actually do visit the parent, I will find out that the reason they haven't been responding to recommendation was probably this, that they've been praying and fasting every day at home.
A lot of lack of awareness.
Yes, waiting for miracle. And then the parents will now say to me, "I recently have a parent whose child was diagnosed with autism." And I'm not sure whether how familiar you are with autism. Autism is a neurobiological disorder that affects the brain.
When you were talking just now about your intervention, you know, you are serving a special purpose in the African community, because without you there saying, "Allow me to go and see this parent or this family," social services was the next step.
It was the next step, absolutely.
How wide in that scope has your job become to say, "Mr. Sosa, I'm having an African parent here who is not turning up for the occasion"? Do you get calls?
I get called. I don't get called because a lot of my colleagues in my profession, they are aware that there's a huge cultural difference in terms of accepting speech and language difficulty. But in most cases, depending on how far their awareness goes, whether they are aware that lack of understanding is causing parents not to bring their children to intervention. I don't know how far that is. But in most cases, I have seen a severe situation where the next step was to get social service involved. And I have to visit that parents at home. And the parent was able to open up to me as an African.
To say, this is why.
This is the reason why I have not used PECS for my child. PECS is what we call Picture Exchange Communication System, where a child is taught how to use picture to communicate. I give you a picture of apple, you give me apple. Now a lot of Africans don't like that. They want their child to talk. The only way that a lot of African parents think we can communicate is talking. And talking in communication is only 30%. 75% or 70% of communication is non-verbal.
So, what is in recognizing these facts, is there anything the government is doing in order to improve awareness amongst African descents?
In the UK, yes, the government are doing a lot of things, especially in speech and language. The Royal College of Speech and Language Therapists are doing a lot to support that. That's the reason they are open to people from a diverse background to train as a speech and language therapist to help promote the awareness of speech and language therapy, so that parents from a diverse background can begin to understand that how important our job is, our role is, not just in terms of children and adults as well.
Very. I'm coming. I'm getting. You know, I'm happy because I might leave here knowing. Please diagnose me before we leave. Now, let's go into what are the common forms of speech and language difficulty, like you were mentioning autism. Talk me through the common.
Oh, there are quite a lot. Speech and language therapy is a very diverse, very broad subject. It will range from someone having autism. We know that autism is a neurobiological disorder that affects the ability to communicate. One of the major features of autism is that it affects communication skills and social communication. which involves the non-verbal, which is the 70% of the communication, taking turns when you're talking, making eye contact with people, understanding that when someone is probably looking differently, they mean something completely different. That aspect, there are people that specialize in that area.
That's autism.
And there are other aspects of speech and language therapy. Learning difficulty can cause speech problem, understanding of language. People with learning difficulty have difficulty learning language, especially abstract language, or language, how to put words together to form sentences. How to say, in English language is structured like subject, verb, object. I am eating apple. A lot of children with learning difficulty find it difficult to understand that language is structured in this way. Yes. Subject, verb, object. It's difficult for them. And how to add adjective to that. How to add pronouns, use pronouns to represent the subject of your sentence. How to add a compound word, how to build words together to become a compound word. It's all challenging for people.
Speech and language is a huge...
It's a huge profession, yes.
And you were able to diagnose people who thought they didn't have a problem. Like you see somebody, you've mentioned some signs to say communication.
Yes.
Eye contact.
Yes.
Some people, this is just their way of life.
Yeah. There are some people that just talk, non-stop. Yeah. They don't give chance to other people to talk. They want to be the center of the talking all the time. That's a huge communication problem. It's a huge social communication difficulty, because in social environment, what communication means is that I say things, you reply to me, like we're doing now.
Yes.
You wait for me to talk, I wait for you to talk. I make sure my response to your question is relevant to the question that you ask. But sometimes you ask some people some question, they give you something completely different. That's a huge communication problem.
I'm starting to think I may suffer from one of these speech and language therapies. But I want to say, like you said, if you ask me one question and I'm talking somewhere, if I come back to the question, does that mean I've been cured? Or?
Not necessarily. No. You see, it's okay to digress to different topic entirely.
Yes.
But in social environment, if someone has asked you, say, how was your weekend? And if you are not going to talk about your weekend, and you say, do you mind, can I not talk about my weekend, I want to talk about my weekdays?
Yeah.
That's totally acceptable.
Yes.
Because you recognize that the person wants to know about your weekend, but you chose to talk about your weekday.
Wednesday.
And you excuse the person and you said, I want to talk about this. What a lot of people with social communication difficulty do, which, for example, like autism would do, is that they don't acknowledge that you want them to talk about
the
weekend. They start talking about cars.
Okay.
Or talking about their own personal interest.
Okay.
That might not be relevant to the question that you asked them.
One of the pluses waiting outside, queuing, trying to see you is as an African, and understanding the problem from the inside. What ways do you think you, as a person, can shine the light, and say, my people, you need to be more aware of this problem?
As far as I'm concerned, one of the reasons I set up my business, my Total Aspirations business, which is what I was doing tonight, talking to parents privately, is to raise awareness and support the ethnic minority as a whole on the awareness of speech and language. I want to take speech and language to Africa, not just on individual level, on talking to parents at all. Also, on the medical side as well, into the university, so that Nigerians should be able to go to university and study speech and language. And I know there are lots of children in Nigeria. I've been to Nigeria. I was in Nigeria in 2011. I know there are quite a few children in Nigeria that have speech difficulty that might not be related to any medical condition. That's something you asked earlier.
Yes.
There are There are different kinds of speech and language problems. For example, there are the speech and language difficulty that's related to development, which means children that are born, then they start having speech or language or swallowing difficulty. That's developmental speech and language.
Because you said you've been to Nigeria on a speech and language expedition, if I may say, being who you are now, knowing what you know, when you went to Nigeria, what did you see?
That's exactly what I was going to talk about.
Yes.
Good question. What did I see? What I saw was that I saw children being locked up.
Locked up?
Yes. And it still breaks my heart today to talk about that.
Locked up for?
Locked up because parents didn't know how to manage them. Parents didn't have the knowledge, the strategies, the understanding of managing their children.
Were they dangerous? Why did they lock
Yes. Their children become very aggressive, very dangerous, don't know how to behave in social environment. Parents can't take them to church, and the children are being locked up.
If speech and language is not handled properly,
it can lead to a lot of behavioral issue. Let's pretend that if I didn't understand the same language as you, and you opened the door and came into this room today while I was doing my presentation, how do you think I would react?
Well, as a speech and language therapist, I expect you to understand I may have some disabilities.
No, let's assume we're both normal.
Yes.
But I didn't want to speak the same language as you.
Yes.
You don't speak English, I don't speak English, and we don't speak the same language. And you came into this room today. How do you think I would feel?
You'll be very upset.
I'll be upset. I'll be speaking my language, asking you, what are you doing here? And you would understand what I say. Then you probably would have tried to explain to me. And then I don't understand what you're saying. Then we will get into argument. And it will result in a lot of behavioral issue. And we will end up fighting and arguing. That's exactly what happens in children. When children have a medical condition that is affecting their ability to communicate, to understand communication, and you are trying to communicate to them as if they don't have that disability.
Yes.
They don't understand the language.
Forceful.
Yeah, you're being forceful in their world. And then the children now fight back.
Is that why they locked? Is that why they said they
That's
locked?
why children have behavioral problem. Lack of communication breakdown will now result in behavioral issue that parents will not think he's aggressive. He's so stubborn.
Did you talk to those parents?
Yes, I wrote a blog about it. It is on my website about the link between communication and behavior. A lot of parents will bring their children to therapy and say he's very stubborn. He doesn't listen to anything. If you tell him to sit down, he stands up. Do you try to see whether the child actually understands what sit means?
In Nigeria, how many? Just give me an array of severe cases that you've mentioned locked up.
Yes, I saw a child locked up in Nigeria, like I said. I went to the house, the parents invited me to the child's house and they wanted me to see the child. The child was locked up in the back, at the back building. And I said, bring him. They brought the child. They said, no, he's going to destroy the whole house, I'm telling you. He's you know.
He was chained?
He's been rejected in so many schools. He doesn't go to school. He's very aggressive. And I said, okay, take me to him where he is. So they took me to the back garden. I just speak nicely to him. I said, does he understand English? I said, he understands broken English. And I just spoke to him nicely. And I said, oh, my name is Esosa. Tell me, what's your name? Just nicely. Interaction. Just proper interaction. I waited for him to introduce himself. I make him understand by my non-verbal communication. Look, I'm here to play. I'm not going to fight you. And I'm not going to force you to do anything you do not want to do. Let's take it very, very easy. If you want to play, I'll play with you. Gradually, the child gradually come out of the room. Was watching my body language, looking at me. Like, can I trust her? Is she really going to play with me? And I just keep saying, come, let's come and play. Do you like games? Do you like to look at my pictures? Look, I've got lots of pictures here for you to look. Come have a look. Tell me which one do you like? And the child gradually comes and touches her. It's building that relationship, interaction with the child. What a lot of African parents don't understand, they don't have that kind of strategy in place. to communicate with your child. That just because your child does not talk does not mean that your child is not smart.
Before they got to the stage of locking up, where did they seek any medical help, or they use this?
There is no help in Nigeria. There is no help. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, there is no help. There is no single speech and language therapy in Nigeria. What I observed in Nigeria is, I know a lot of people won't believe it, is people that are trained in different professions. Like, for example, physiotherapy, occupational therapist, or audiologist, or any other profession, working as a speech and language therapist in Nigeria.
They just combine.
They have no idea what speech and language therapist is. They take their child to audiologist. Audiologist will say it's got a speech problem. That's it. And then they think that the child has been to a speech and language therapist. Or they take the child to occupational therapist. Occupational therapist, the child has a speech and language problem. They think the occupational therapist is a speech and language therapist. So that kind of professional boundaries that we have in the UK, like speech and language therapist cannot do the job of a physiotherapist. A physiotherapist cannot do the job of occupational therapist. I don't think that's actually outlined to parents. I'm not sure, it might be there on the professional level, but the parents don't understand that. That's what I'm trying to say.
But in order, this is just Nigeria. Did you visit, in terms of general African awareness, have you visited any country where they have more?
I have been to Ghana. Because I have a lot of my friends that we train together as a speech and language therapist who work in Ghana. Yeah. The awareness is much more higher in Ghana than it is in Nigeria. And Gambia have a very high awareness as well. South Africa also have a very, very high awareness as well. Because South Africa have a system of speech and language therapy that actually works in South Africa.
What is the first thing you can do, to say, I'm from Nigeria and I want to improve the awareness in Nigeria, considering you've been to Ghana, you've been to Gambia, South Africa, and you can see their streets ahead of us.
Yeah.
What in your
I would like to work with the government, because the kind of awareness that is happening in Ghana and every other part of Africa that I know, as far as I know, comes from the government.
The government structure.
Yes, the government structure. The Ghanaian government sent students from Ghana to come and study speech and language therapy in university here, in England, in London, City University.
Okay, and
so they will now go to Nigeria, go back to Ghana after training as a speech and language therapist, and practice as a speech and language therapist, and probably work in the university, train other speech and language therapists in Ghana.
As well.
So the awareness of speech and language and the intervention is much more effective. It's much more the profession is much more recognized in Ghana. Well, like I said, in Nigeria, I don't think it's highly recognized. I think other people are.
You're not aware of any government programs?
No,
not at all.
Definitely not. Now, what I intend to do in supporting Africa as a general is to work with the government, is to release a DVD where I will be giving strategies on how to support a child with speech and language, how to recognize that your child is going to be prone, vulnerable to speech, language, or communication problem in the future. I will give those kind of
guideline, a little
guidelines, and what you can do to support that child in your own immediate environment at home.
It's a shame that you are not getting the government support. Have you reached out to any particular governments to say?
I have reached out. I know in Edo State, where I come from in Nigeria, I think I saw a video where a lady with dyslexia was being
put through by the other. Yeah,
that's it. Was put through to read in public, and that prompted me to contact the Edo State government governor at that time. Well, I contacted the Edo State governor. I didn't hear anything, and up till now I still haven't heard anything from them. Yeah, I know we've got a new governor now.
Yes.
I don't know how well he will respond to that. I haven't actually been in touch with him. I haven't made any effort to do that. But I'm willing to. I am open to
suggestions. Yes. With regards to your DVD, and this is an African problem. I guess not just Nigeria or Edo State can benefit
No.
You know, from it's give me more information, just so for people watching. Is this a guide? My understanding says it's a guide on how to deal with speech and language difficulties where you are.
Yes, I'm going to be doing a DVD on how to tackle speech and how to tackle language and how to tackle social communication difficulty and how to recognize that your child has a swallowing problem or an adult with a swallowing problem. For example, an adult that has a stroke, depending on what part of the brain the stroke affects, then the person would probably have a swallowing problem. So it's not a spiritual thing that someone has a stroke. It's a medical condition. That person needs help. Will your DVD move people from spiritual inkling to that's my goal. My goal is I'm not asking anyone not to believe, change their faith. Yes. Your faith is your faith, but seek help in the right direction. When you pray that God help you or whatever faith you believe in to help you, pray for that faith to lead you to the right medical person that can help you and your child. Let's talk about intervention and stages of intervention. You specialize in children and adults? I specialize in children. In children? Yeah. And although I'm trained on all of them, in adult and children, but my specialty is pediatric. Have you seen when children don't get the kind of assistance you provide? Yes. And have you been commonly, coming to adults that missed the whole... Yes. Well, what does it look like to you when you see somebody? When I see, that's a very, very good question. That's one of the reasons that society is broken. Even in the UK today, you see a lot of youth offenders in the youth offender industry, where you see children gun crimes every day, everywhere in the street. One of the factors that contributes to that is speech and language problems. When they are not diagnosed at the time, they are not treated, it results in a huge behavioral problem in this society, where children who are vulnerable to be manipulated, children becomes vulnerable to crime. They don't understand the implications of their actions because that learning difficulty is there, the impairment is there, have caused them not to understand things properly. When they join gang, they think those people like them, they don't understand that what they are doing is not right. If you actually take time to look at those children, these are the children that was missed as a young child, that probably have a mild difficulty that was not picked on, was not treated, now resulting to a big issue when they grow up. Would it be correct for me to say when autism is picked up early or speech and language difficulty, I've heard that Bill Gates has autism. Bill Gates has dyslexia. Exactly. Yeah. R. Kelly has dyslexia. Gareth Gates stammers. Okay. Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran stutters. You see where I'm driving at? Is this, when it's treated, that would be unfair for me to say you produce geniuses. Yes. Yes. One of the things that autism or any kind of impairment does, autism on its own, there are a lot of people with autism who are very, very intelligent. Have you seen the movie The Rain Man? I heard about The Rain Man. Oh, you need to watch that. What did he do? It's Dustin Hoffman playing an autistic man, yes, a man with autism, and Tom Cruise playing his brother, his younger brother. How his big brother, who has autism, have a fantastic memory, a brilliant memory. He made his brother rich just because his brother took him to Las Vegas to play the game. And he observed the game just within a few minutes that he observed the game. He taught his brother how to play, and the brother won the game. No. That's it. That's what autism is. When you deny that child how to explore their strength, you're denying a genius. Okay. if it's not treated early enough, it can result to a lot of problems in the future. Like children become lawbreakers, they can go into prison, it can cause stress. It can cause them to become vulnerable to the society, vulnerable to abuse, vulnerable for people to lure into crime. It can cause them to become, they're copying people. They copy because they don't understand. They think what that people are doing is the right thing to do because they themselves haven't got an understanding of what's right or bad. It can lead to depression, anxiety. It can become serious psychological problem. A whole lot of things can happen. And you see a lot of people today in the society with serious mental health illness.
Because they were not diagnosed.
Because one tiny little thing was not treated early enough, it comes up and it builds up to this. That's what I was discussing with parents today. How early intervention, the importance of early intervention. Why it is important that you treat your child's speech, language or communication problem. Because if you know why, how is very easy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been very, very educational. And should people want to get in touch with you to ask questions, can you please just tell the viewers at home where you know, I know Total Aspirations, but I'll leave it.
Yes, they can get in touch with me through my website on Total Aspirations, www.totalaspirations.co.uk. They can also go in touch with me on email. My email is esosa@totalaspirations.co.uk. And they can also go in touch with me on my mobile number as well.
We'll put that on the screen. And I hope in the future you'll be able to train more Africans, you know.
I train people to become speech and language therapy assistants so that they work as a speech and language therapy assistant. Yes, I do that. I have two people that are training right now to become speech and language therapy assistants.
It also helps that you're not just lonely. You know, you seem to be on your own so much.
No, it's not lonely, but it's a very busy job. You get to see a lot of people all the time. Work with other professionals. You work with occupational therapy, physiotherapists, audiologists, and a whole lot of people. No, it's not a lonely job at all. It's a very, very busy job.
Thank you.
You see parent teachers every day.
Thank you. Am I okay? Generally, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I've been given a clean bill of health.
Your communication is very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to meet you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for accommodating us. Thank you.